Hello, welcome to the Horror of It All Movie Podcast. I'm Eric. Today I'm going to be doing my top 10 favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases of 2023. There really isn't any other introduction other than let's just go through these. I'm not going to go into super detail or anything. I'll probably mention a few different things, maybe about the release or whatever, or obviously how much I liked it. And obviously I did because it's in my top 10, so I figured I don't have to go too far into that. But I'm just going to get right into it. Number 10 is a movie that I was super intrigued by, although I was thinking of another movie. Not quite sure what movie that was at the moment, but once I finally saw it, I'm like, I had no idea what this movie is, and I'm here for it. It is so much fun, and I'm talking about the little oddity, early 70s oddity, Arnold. Basically about this woman who ends up marrying this guy who's dead, but she has, it's to get his money or something, and I'm like, but he's dead, and it's a very weird movie, but it's a hell of a trip of a movie, and the ending is like, wow. But the cast is amazing. Stella Stevens is the bride. Roddy McDowall, I believe was the love interest, and then we also have Farley Granger is in it, of Alfred Hitchcock's Rope and Strangers on a Train fame, as well as later on in the 70s he did some giallos like So Sweet, So Dead, which I think is one of the more underrated giallos that I absolutely love. But yeah, Arnold is a lot of fun. It's a weird trip. It's a very early 70s, so it still almost has like that kind of 60s feel. Yeah, like 73, but the artwork is really cool. It even has, what is his name? Bernard Fox, who plays the dim-witted sheriff, I guess, or the basically, yeah, he's a cop, but he seems like a more head up. Not necessarily showing my age because I wasn't even thought of at that time, but I kind of grew up with Bewitched and the original show because my mom loves that show, and he played Dr. Bombay. If anybody knows what I'm talking about. Other than that, of course, like I said, Stella Stevens of like Poseidon Adventure fame, and I always thought she was a very gorgeous woman, and yeah, so I love this movie. That's my number 10 favorite Vinegar Syndrome movie of 2023. I'm going to try not to say that each and every time. And number 9, I don't know if this will fuck with the camera, but my number 9 is Rabid Grannies. A very fucking wild ride of a trip. It kind of has that, like, early Peter Jackson-ness to it. There's something else I wanted to say about it, too, but I can't remember. But it's got a really cool slipcase. I don't know how well you can see that. I've showed it before. It's on the front and the back. But, yeah, it's basically about this one of those stories about a family who is set to get, like, an inheritance or something, so they're all there. And somehow the grannies get rabid and start eating everything and everyone type thing. And it gets brutal at times, and I love it. But yeah, Rabid Grannies. I highly recommend it, and it's my number 9. Alright, number 8 is a surprise, I think, because it seems to be a mixed bag for some people, but I absolutely love this movie. And I'm talking about Evil Judgment. It's basically a Canadian slasher, but it's also a giallo. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. This is the back of the slipcover. This is the other art. But yeah, I thought it was great, honestly. Some of the stuff is a little bit like, really, that's what you did? But, like, for instance, the main character, she has a friend who's a prostitute, and her boyfriend thinks that's disgusting, and always is giving her shit and putting her down, and, like, you shouldn't hang out with her because you're going to be influenced type of thing. And then basically one of those arguments blow up, and her reaction is to go with her friend and essentially be a prostitute. And from there, the guy dies, and giallo slasherness ensues. But I thought this one was a lot of fun. I highly recommend it and can't wait to watch it again. That is my number 8. Number 7 is a movie I've had on DVD for, I'd say, over a decade, roughly. Which the DVD was really a hard one to find, so it was super awesome that Vinegar Syndrome released it. One of the many movies called this, but this is the Italian one. Well, what am I saying? There's other Italian ones of this title, but is Delirium. This is, as is said on the back, long considered one of the most shocking and controversial gialli to emerge from the genre's golden age, which was 1972. Super sleazy, super weird, super fucked up at times. But yeah, I've liked this movie since I got the DVD because I was never able to watch it. But I love this movie. I love the slipcover. Can't really show the back very well, but this is the Italian 1972 movie Delirium, and that is my number 7 of my top 10 favorite Vinegar Syndrome movies or releases of 2023. All right, almost to the top 5 already. Like I do on any of my other rankings, before I say the number 1, I have a few honorable mentions. Now, I will say, in my top 10, as I said at the beginning, I think, but I don't know how much I explained it, these are all just Vinegar Syndrome releases. These are all releases that came in my subscription. But in the honorable mentions, there's a couple of those, but there's also sublabels. So, and I didn't want to mix that up, and it made it much easier to do a top 10. Okay, without further more ado, my number 6 is a very infamous movie that got released on 4K, which I've had before on many formats, and this was my favorite time watching it. I've always really liked it, but now I love it. Something like clicked even more. Like I've always like, oh, that's a great movie, or I really, really like it. Now I love it. And I'm talking about Mother's Day. This is the greatest it's ever looked. This is the greatest release of this movie that it's ever been. And I love this movie, and I love all the little things about, like, certain scenes that were filmed on the same exact thing at Friday the 13th, because they filmed in the same area at the same time, the original. But yeah, this is 1980s Mother's Day. This is the other side of the slip. It's a 4K. As I said, looks amazing. It's got a ton of special features. Sorry about the glare. As always, because Vinegar Syndrome does not mess around. And they give you the best it possibly is ever going to be, and more of the times than not probably will be. But what can I say about Mother's Day? If you haven't seen it and you love 80s slashers, but they're a little goofy, but they're a little fucked up and sleazy as well, that's Mother's Day. One of Eli Roth's favorite movies. I know that was a random thing that came to mind because I've been super engrossed in the history of his newest movie, Thanksgiving, because it was a movie that he always wanted to do, and he finally got to do it with his friend that he has been best friends with since kindergarten, and he was the writer and blah, blah, blah. But they loved Mother's Day. He watched it, I believe, at his bar mitzvah little thing in there. He has a special feature on there that is ported over from, I believe, the Scream Factory release. And I only say that when I say, like, I don't know if that's a pro or a con for some people, because he's one of those, like, newer directors that not more times than not, but sometimes internet bullshit, you get shit on. Ignore any of it, like, you be you. If you don't like him, whatever. But I personally am a huge fan of his and am fascinated by all the stuff that he knows, and I would love to have a conversation with him someday, because I I know he's seen way more than I have, but I'm pretty good at a lot of obscure shit. So I know I shouldn't say a lot more, but a considerable amount. Anyway, this is not just about Eli Roth. This is about Mother's Day. Mother's Day is quite the fucking movie, and it also turned into a revenge movie as well. That's all I'm going to say. If you haven't seen it, check out Mother's Day. That is my number 6 of my top 10 favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases of 2023. We are in the top 5 now. We got another upgrade that is on 4K, and that is From Beyond. One of Stuart Gordon's absolute best, right up there with Reanimator for me. From Beyond is absolutely amazing. Another connection with another new movie that I'm not going to go too far into is Suitable Flesh. Highly recommend it. Big fan of Joe Lynch, who directed it, and it has the same writer as this and Reanimator and a lot of those movies. It's also kind of set in the same world. Like, yeah. But anyway, From Beyond is absolutely crazy. This 4K looks, of course, amazing, but the colors are, you've never seen it look more vibrant. Just the colors, the text, everything about it is better than it's ever looked. And of course, you got the back there, and this is the original art, and a ton of special features, of course. But yeah, From Beyond is absolutely amazing, and that is why it is in my top 5 favorite releases from Vinegar Syndrome last year. All right, number 4 is a 4K. It is an upgrade, but it's a huge upgrade from previous releases, and it's another favorite, like growing up in VHS days. I'm talking about The Boogeyman. It's an interesting concept about this like mirror that captures certain events, and it's almost got like an Invisible Man type thing to it, but it's like a possessor type thing. It's really hard to explain, but I absolutely have always loved this movie, and I was super excited when Vinegar Syndrome put it out on 4K, and again, looks better than it ever has. The special features on here are amazing, of course. It was directed by Uli Lamel, which Vinegar Syndrome has put out 2 of his other movies as well. Olivia was, I think, their first one, and then The Dunwich Horror, which is also, I think, is also amazing. I'm a big fan of him, and what's her name, Suzanne Love, and she's on this release too for special features. This is the back of the slipcover. This, I will say, this slipcover's a little loose. Like, I gotta hold it. I don't want it to fall. But yeah, this is my number 4 favorite Vinegar Syndrome release of 2023. Okay, my number 3 is absolute behemoth of a release. It is so good. It is so great, and it's an all-time favorite Lamberto Bava movie, and I'm talking about A Blade in the Dark. And in case anybody's curious, I'm going to take it out of here. The slipcover protector does not actually fit very well, but it was the best one that I came across for them, for it, and yeah, I made it work. What did I use? I think I used the, like, 2 Blu-rays or 4Ks with a slip box and a booklet, I believe. I tried that one, and it almost just fits. But anyway, that's not a neither here nor there. This is an amazing release, an amazing box. Look at that shit. I've watched this movie since DVD, I think. I don't think I ever saw it back in VHS days, but again, greatest it's ever going to be, I think. And it's a bit fatter for slip, and I'm a bit fatter case, tons of special features. It's I guess it would be a giallo about this guy that rents out this house. It's got 4 discs. One is it 2 4Ks, 2 4K discs and 2 Blu-ray discs. And he is a composer for, I believe, movies. And there's also an amazing book. And while he's doing his work, he befriends this woman, and the guy that kind of got him to rent it, like the owner of the house. He comes in now and then. I believe that was Michael Suave. Yep. He started out as an actor, but he kind of got his way in because he wanted to direct, and he was always there to help Dario Argento and other people. I assume probably even was behind the scenes with Lamberto Bava, I believe. The main guy in it is also in Lucio Fulci's New York Ripper. But I really, really like this movie. Again, the 4K is amazing. So yeah, that is A Blade in the Dark, an absolute classic in my opinion. Also has a wraparound of a little kid throwing a ball down the steps of a creepy attic, which kind of ties in with different things in the movie. Who is played by the guy who played Bob. I know, everybody hates on Bob, but you know what? It's not his fault. Anytime he was ever in any of these Italian movies, he was always dubbed. It was never his voice, and I know his voice is very high and girl-like, and he's not a girl, but I always feel bad for Bob because of that, because everybody gives him shit. But yeah, he's also like in a small role in this. But A Blade in the Dark, Lamberto Bava's A Blade in the Dark, absolutely love this movie and have ever since the second I saw it. That was my number 2. Number 3 is a very, very big surprise. I've always wanted to see this movie, and it was so fucking hard to see it. Even Joe Rubin, one of the co-owners of Vinegar Syndrome, has always said that it's one of his favorites, and he'd love to release it. And as soon as I saw it on Black Friday, I was like, my first reaction was, congratulations, Joe, you finally did it. And I'm talking about this creepy little masterpiece called The Black Room. It was also in the Section 3 Video Nasty that was after the main Video Nasties. It's not said that on here. I guess that's not too important, but I find it interesting. It's talked about on the second Video Nasty little compilation thing that has the documentary. It has a documentary, and then the second disc and third disc, I believe, are like trailers of all the movies, and they have introductions. But The Black Room is basically about this guy who is unhappy with his marriage but doesn't want to necessarily get a divorce or anything. So he finds this ad, and it's this guy that rents out this room, the Black Room, to have little escapades with other people, and party and have sex and all that. But they have ulterior motives, and it's not just recording them. But one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. I can't wait to watch it again. I showed the back. This is the original artwork. Not quite as exciting, I guess you would say. The tagline there was, "There's a room for rent in the Hollywood Hills, and the tenants are paying in blood." But that's almost too much. I'm not even gonna say it. But The Black Room is my number 2 of my top 10 favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases of 2023. I cannot recommend this more. It's absolutely amazing, and just wow. I was blown away. I absolutely love it so fucking much. yeah, I don't want to say too much more about it, but definitely, if any of that sounded interesting to you, and I hope I didn't give too much away. I don't think I did. Um, but The Black Room, wow, huge get for Vinegar Syndrome, man. Huge get, because that movie is essentially like, I don't know if you call it lost, but it was next to impossible to see, and looking good, and it looks amazing, of course. So I'm gonna go into some honorable mentions. Um, Real quick, I'm not going to really go through them. I will say one thing that I'm not mentioning here that I'm sure a lot of people might be surprised is the 10th anniversary Vinegar Syndrome box set. I just started going through that, so I didn't really feel like it was appropriate for this. But there were so many good releases that it might still be in an honorable mention. I'll just say that. But the documentary, Against the Grain, whew, worth the price of admission. Um, My first honorable mention is a VSA, one of the most fun VSAs of all. It's top 3 VSA for me, I think. But Magic Crystal, absolute bonkers kung fu, sci-fi weirdness. So good. Almost like parts that feel like it could be like a kid's movie, a weirdo kid sci-fi movie, but the most fun I've had in a long time with a VSA. Not to say I don't like the VSA line, because I do buy them all, but Magic Crystal, I had an absolute blast. And a Vinegar Syndrome that kind of flip-flopped. This might be like number 11 if I was to go any farther. But Biozombie. And I know some people looking at it might be like, what the fuck is this? I got this because I'm a subscriber. This is how you got it before. But this is a weirdo, bonkers zombie movie that I had a lot of fun with. I had only heard of it and never got a chance to see it. Directed by one of Hong Kong's most prominent action directors, Wilson Yip, I think you say. Biozombie is a neon-filled zombie comedy bursting at the guts with 90s flair. But yeah, Biozombie, absolute blast. Had so much fun with it. It's also another zombie in a mall type thing, except their malls were very different at that time. I don't even think they called them malls. I think it said the director said something about it in the special features. And the alternate ending is interesting too, but this is the box. Sorry for anybody that was like, what the fuck is that? But you get it. I got it because of being a subscriber. But Biozombie, highly recommend. Close number 11. But it's an honorable mention. The next one is one that seems to have more hate than love, but I love it. Even Stephen Thrower on the special features, so I'm in good company. Loves this. I don't know what to say about it, but Curse of the Screaming Dead, I personally really enjoyed it, but I also understand why people don't like it. I really understand why people don't like the bonus movie, Night of Horror, but even I liked it, and I know the reasons why people didn't like it. There's a lot of dialogue, and sometimes like there's a scene that people always mention that is at a bar, not a bar, but a bar in a basement, like somebody made it, and they're facing the wall, so the camera's behind them, and they're just having a conversation. But it's the wraparound of him telling the whole story, and the story to me is pretty interesting. Now, there is, I believe it was that one. I'm kind of mixing them. I think there was a scene that went on way too long. There's many scenes that go on way too long of a guy whispering really, really slow. But the one that got me was the reenactment of like a Civil War battle. And that seemed to go on way too long, but it was for time. But I'm talking about Curse of the Screaming Dead, which is kind of like a remake, but they were like, could you add like more gore and blah 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 and make it longer to Night of Horror? And the director decided, why don't I just make a whole new movie? And he did. And I thought it was a blast. So yeah, take that with what it is. Curse of the Screaming Dead. Yeah, I'm a fan. All right, now the rest are sublabels. I got 3 more. The first VSL that was out, but yet it's number 2, probably because they didn't finish number 1 yet, blah, 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 is probably the best VSL so far. I don't know where they're going with this line, personally. I was hoping it was more in the direction of this movie, but hey, it seems like it's one of those lines where certain movies that they don't know what else to do with it, so that's VS Labs, VSL. And that's fine, that makes sense. Labs, like, let's see what happens. But this movie should have been a classic, honestly. It's from 1943, and it was an anthology called Flesh and Fancy. I just love this movie. I really do. So, yeah, what does it say here? One of the first horror anthology films made by an American studio in 2 years before Dead of Night, which for some has been mentioned over time as like the first one or one of the absolute first ones, which is true, but it's not the first one. But Flesh and Fancy. I guess I don't even know what to call it. It's not really horror, so to speak, but it has horror elements to it. It has almost like maybe noir element. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but a trilogy, tales of love and death. So yeah, take that for what it is. This is the back of the slipcover. Murder by obsession. We're going to kill. You're going to die. Unseen hands push him on. If you're on the fence about this and you like older movies, like older black and white movies, which I like movies from all times, what is it called again? Flesh and Fancy. Flesh and Fantasy. I probably said fancy a few times. Flesh and Fantasy. Highly recommend it. And I got 2 more. Right out of the fucking gate with the Gowser video. I've always wanted to see this. First time I saw it was on this release. And it looks pretty damn good for being, I believe it's, let's see, a direct-to-video, Predator Blu-ray. Yeah, this was shot on film, but dumped on, I don't like that. Some people probably like it less, but edited onto tape. But Redneck Zombies is a bonkers fest. A lot of people call it a, what am I trying to think? Trauma, duh. A Trauma movie. And Trauma ended up buying it. Yes. However, it's not a Trauma movie. It was made and being made before they even saw Toxic Avenger. So I found that interesting. I personally like this more than any Trauma movie I've ever seen. I like Trauma, and I love some of the movies. Well, I don't love some of the movies. I really like some of the movies, but I tend to like the ones more that were produced by Trauma or funded by Trauma. The only thing is that gets mixed up in the shuffle, and people think it's a Trauma movie, quote-unquote Trauma movie. Those are not Trauma movies. A lot of the movies that Vinegar Syndrome puts out, or even the Gowser here, are not Trauma movies. Like, when I think Trauma movies, I think the obvious. I think Toxic Avenger and Class of Nukem High and Poultrygeist, which is one of the most disgusting fucking movies that I've ever seen. So, when it gets to a certain point of disgusting for me, it's not funny, it's not scary, it's just disgusting. But that's just me. And I'm not talking about blood, I'm talking about shit and stuff. But anyway, I digress. Better than any Trauma movie I've ever seen, even though it's not really a Trauma movie, but it kind of feels like one. One of my favorite scenes in it is one of the redneck guys, not zombies yet, finds this canister that is toxic waste. And they can't read, so it says, like, caution and blah, 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 like, don't get near this and don't open it and blah, blah, blah. And he pretends to read and thinks he is, don't open till Christmas. One of my favorite parts of the movie. They also do moonshine, and all the people in the town, once they, like, turn, before they turn and stuff, well, the family is turned and they're like tripping and shit. One of the sons is delivering it to people all over town, and one of the scenes is absolutely brutal that you're like, what did he just walk into? And there's this girl being trapped and captured by like two captives, and she's on a couch tied up, and then a guy comes out of the kitchen covered in blood, and all he says is like, oh, that's cool, and he takes it from him and everything, but he definitely is doing it very, excuse me, very creepily. But Redneck Zombies is so much fucking fun, and I'm so glad to own it. And I am excited for the Gauser line. I'm not sure about the second one, but we're gonna find out. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, this was amazing right out of the gate. All right. Now this one is not one that is on. I think I can show this. Yep. Is not on the Vinegar Syndrome site. It is from Melusine, and it is one of their sub-labels. And I know some people might think, like, whoa, you're getting into territory, and you're not... Because, I didn't mention I wouldn't do sub-labels, partner labels, but that would just get too much. So I've decided not to do that. But this one is my absolute favorite one from Quality X, which I've been buying all those, and I've liked all of them. But this is the best one. I actually just watched it before this video, and if you're into adult film and like older adult films, I think you'll like this. And this one goes above and beyond with some of the stuff that's in it. I can't say much about that, but I'm talking about Annie Sprinkle, Deep Inside Annie Sprinkle. Just wow. But if that's your bag, so to speak, I think I can show the back here. But really cool artwork, but a very interesting and just I loved it. I thought it was great. So if you're into their adult titles, that one I'd recommend it, picking it up. And there's going to be a Valentine's Day sale. I don't think that one will be on sale, but yeah. Anyway, I gotta take this off so there isn't glare because I got a slip protector on my number one. Finally, my number one top 10 favorite Vinegar Syndrome release of 2023. This one just barely got in at the beginning. I love the first one that they released, but I just might like this one even more. This absolutely batshit movie that I'd never seen either one. I think I saw Freeway 1 back in the day, but I'm talking about Freeway 2, starring I almost said Linnea Quigley. No, scratch that. Natasha Lyonne, which I'm a huge fan of. This one, as it's been said with the first one, is kind of like Little Red Riding Hood, and this one's more like a deranged Hansel and Gretel. Yeah, and it's on 4K. I'm sorry if I didn't mention all... No, I did. But it's an absolute fucked up movie. I think it's even more fucked up than the first Freeway, which I also love. I did get the box that has both of them. I hesitated. I wasn't sure about it, but I ended up getting them. I partially hesitated because I'm like, I have slipcover protectors, but that's not going to fit. But anyway, definitely a fucked up movie. Who else? What's the guy's name? Vincent Gallo is in it. He would end up being the witch in Hansel and Gretel for this, but it's a fucking wild ride, just as the first one is. But like I said, I think this one's even more fucked up. One of my absolute favorite movies I've ever seen, let alone my number one favorite Vinegar Syndrome release of 2023, is Freeway. If you like fucked up shit, check out the Freeway movies if you have not. But be prepared. Yeah. And of course it looks great. That's the original art. Very, very late 90s type of thing. I think that's when it was, right? Yeah, 99, right at the tail end. But it deals with a lot of those different things in Hansel and Gretel, but yeah, it's fucked up. But this is my favorite release from Vinegar Syndrome of 2023. Thanks if you're still here, sticking to the end. This is fun. I love doing these rankings. It's just a lot of work to do them in a way. For somebody who doesn't do videos, they might not get that, or even some people that do videos, I don't know. It is for me. It's a lot of work, and with a family and everything, it takes me a while to get to it. Good example. I've been doing an ongoing series for the past 2 years now of my top 10 favorite movies from each year in the 1980s. I got quite a few of them. You should check those out. It's on my channel. Well, the channel you're watching. I think I got 88 and 89 left, so I'm in the home stretch. Hopefully soon, no promises, but I wanted to at least do a top 10 of my absolute favorite label, Vinegar Syndrome, of my top 10 favorite releases of last year in 2023, and honorable mentions. So check out my other videos. It started out as a podcast. I have a really cool... It's a little long, but it's fun. If you like longer podcasts, it's fine. It's not that long. It's a couple hours, I think. Maybe it's not even a couple hours. But anyway, that I did with my wife. We did a ranking of the Friday the 13th series. That was one of the first things we really connected on, because when I met my wife, she wasn't really into horror, and I kind of got that path going. She's not into it like I am, and she doesn't watch it like I do still, but I introduced her to the greats and some very obscure ones. They Live is one of her favorite movies now, and I know that's to some that's more sci-fi, but that if you think about the concept of that movie, it's fucking terrifying. But anyway, yeah, check out that stuff. Like and subscribe. That would be great. I have a ton of Vinegar Syndrome videos, which I'll try to link here somewhere or in the description if I remember. Sorry if I don't, but if you are still here and are curious, I have a whole folder, and this will be in it too. So anyway, this has been the Horror of It All movie podcast. I'm Eric. Until next time.